Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Media Watch. I'm your host, Dr. Savvy. And as per normal, we try and bring you some fantastic guests, and we've got a very good one this week. Now, just to remind you about what the programme is about, we try to look at the news stories from around the world, whether they're Sikh news or general news in particular, and there are some hot topics that we'd like to discuss with a media edge to them. This week we're looking at two topics. The first one about how people are portrayed in terms of the sad terrorism acts that happen around the world, in terms of is there a media bias? The second thing we want to talk about is the EU, to stay or to go. It's a big hot topic in the UK at the moment. There are lots of people talking about the benefits of staying, and there are people that are saying maybe we'll be better off if we weren't there. So I'd like to introduce my guest to you, is Dr. Peter. He's a great guy. I've known him for a very long time. Got a PhD in, I always get it wrong, I think it's polymer science or something. Chemistry, okay. Something to do with polymers anyway. But he's been working in IT for something like 25 years. He runs his own company, which is called drpete.co.uk. I won't tell you any more about it because I'm sure he'll mention briefly what it's about. But he's also somebody who's so passionate about business, and there is a particular role. I think you've just been promoted to something in government, haven't you?
Deputy Chairman, not in government, in the Vote Leave campaign.
In the Vote Leave campaign, but I think there was some business chamber
yes,
that you've been told.
Business
for Britain, absolutely.
Yeah.
You're the deputy chair for that now. So I'll introduce you to him. Dr. Pete, welcome to the show. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa.
Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
Thank you for joining. So tell us a little bit more about your career. So you moved from being a PhD in...
I started, my background is I started off as a chemist, and I loved chemistry, but I really realised when I was doing chemistry that my passion was computing. Okay. So then I started playing with my computers, and I ended up being an IT guy, and I worked for lots of different companies. I worked for Apple, I worked for Ernst & Young, I worked for the European Commission, and over those years then I built a career in consulting, and I helped companies who are transitioning in any type of IT project. So they might be buying or selling a company, or they want to change their systems, or they want to become more efficient and effective. And that I did for 20 years with a large consultancy in London. And the last 5 years I've been running my own consultancy and now an IT outsourcing business.
Fantastic.
And we help clients around the world with IT problems.
Brilliant. And so we will cover in a minute the other subject, which is a subject that's close to your heart with
yes.
regards to staying or leaving the EU.
Well, because I worked in the EU,
I've got some
passion, yes.
Absolutely. But let's talk about the first topic. The first one is to say, sadly, a few hours ago, literally before going on air, we heard that something like 82 people died in a bomb explosion. It's the third bomb explosion that's taken place in Baghdad. And unfortunately, there are also 87 other people that have died as well. And there's an escalation of violence that's continued to happen. Now, I wanted to ask you just briefly, you know, you've got experience of using computers, you know about media, you know about social media and all that. You know, when you see a situation where basically, sadly, something happens in France, and on Facebook, you'll find that people will change their Facebook pictures, their profiles to the flag. But then every day there's deaths going on all over the world, and there's massive explosions. And I think recently there was a massive explosion that took place in Karachi as well. Mm-hmm. And we don't actually get to hear those headlines. We don't get to see those news items. Is it because life is worth differently in a far-off place than the UK? Is it media bias in your view?
I think it's what the media think we want to hear. And, you know, a little local story here about the royal family is probably more important to them than the people who are far away who've died. And I think it's about how we compartmentalise different things in our life. If you had to really think about every case, it would be very difficult for people to handle. When it's something close to home, in the sense of, yes, it's in Europe, they can envisage themselves walking on the street of Paris, they've been there, and you know the media themselves have been there, so the media are also part of this, then they just try and compartmentalize all these other things, like what goes on in South America. People are dying every day, people dying in other parts of the world, and they don't want to think about them like human beings, because otherwise, you know, it doesn't sell more newspapers.
Are you saying it doesn't resonate with them?
It doesn't resonate. That's right. And also it's also about, you know, as human beings, you know, there was once slavery in the world. Today we don't accept that slavery.
There's still slavery.
Yeah, well, yeah. True, but yeah. On the whole there isn't slavery. Right. But people, how do they treat other people? They disassociate them from being the same. they try and say that this is something like how we treat animals. Why do we treat dogs so well and we treat other ones that we slaughter so badly? It's the same thing. It's a human way of saying, I'm close to this, this is important, this is my family, or this is my kin. And unfortunately, I don't really blame anyone. This is in the nature of a human being. They behave like this.
So let's talk about life in general, right?
Yes.
If you've got, I mean, and I think we were talking just before the show, you were saying, if there's a child, and we know that situation happened last year, that the child washed up on the shores, I think it was in Bodrum in Turkey, but then there's hundreds of people that have died to try and cross to get away from the Syrian situation, or I've seen a video footage of the people that actually get the money, they get on the boat, and they take them on the boat, they jump off the boat to swim back to shore, and the boat stops, running. The engine stops working, and eventually the dinghy actually sinks and everyone dies. I mean, this is a horrendous situation that we've spoken about on the show time and time again. So there's no value of that life that in people's minds, that they don't think that that's something that's important to them.
I just think it's a kind of it's a safety mechanism in the human being that they don't want to think about that. And when you see a child, you look into that child's eye. With the Vietnam War, there were pictures, and there were so many other pictures that have moved people. And when they saw the boy washed up on shore, they saw his eyes glint, and the father. That you can suddenly, you resonate. You feel that could be me, and it's a bit like as I said, walking in Paris. You feel that could be me, whereas being in the streets of Baghdad, most people have never been in the streets of Baghdad. They don't have any concept of that, so they say that's not important to them.
So do you think that it would never change? It will always be the same?
No, I think the world is, people, that's not true, because people will look up and investigate their own causes if they want to. But on the whole, I don't think you can change those things. And is it a bad thing? If you spend all the time looking at negativity in the world, we don't do enough positivity in the world, that's the problem. And we think today, believe it or not, according to my understanding of history, less people die today, even with all of the explosions we've got, than has happened in the past as a percentage of population. Because people have always been evil to one another in the past. They killed them, they enslaved them. The Romans were terrible people. We all go and look at their marvelous things, but think at how they were made. The Egyptian pyramids, they were made in a terrible way. Millions of people have died making these things. So if you look at the context of human beings, it's actually not a bad place. There's a guy called Steven Pinker who's done some work on this, and actually said the level of violence we do today, and how we expect people to treat one another today, is actually a lot better than it has been in the past.
I'm just thinking while you're talking, I'm thinking, if you draw a graph, time at the bottom, which is normally the classic thing. This is your stats and stuff. The number of deaths are going down.
Violence, I would say, violence and abuse, I would say, is actually, as a percentage of population, is going down. 20 years ago, people were doing more in the way of, this stuff with paedophilia and child and all that other stuff going on. Today people are much more aware of that, and we've got laws, and people will believe you.
Yeah, but there are people that still get away with it.
I'm sure, but I'm just saying, if you look at the human trait and how we are doing much better.
Okay, well,
it's a positive view on life.
I just think that if you can't, if a child can't get a meal, and if I think there's a problem if you look in certain countries, and we don't have to name them, where and recently a particular politician was called out revealing what he really thought about whether corruption does exist or doesn't exist. Maybe the heart of this evil is the corruption that exists, where a country can start growing, but only certain people in that country can become rich, whereas the people who are poor get poorer, and poverty gets greater and greater. So the rich and poor divide, the polarization is so much more. And so over time, if you draw that graph again, time at the bottom, the number of people that don't have equal opportunities is still the same.
I'm not sure I agree with you. I think over the period of millennia, if you talk about millennia, a lot of people are doing well.
You probably have to put on the industrial age and hope that people
I actually studied this as one of my specializations at university, and they said every great society is always built on an underclass. If it was America, it's slavery. If we look at Japan, we think Japan's a great model. There is an underclass supplying all the Japanese auto companies. There are things that we don't know. That will change, though, by the way, because I look at the future and I look at robots. there will be a lot of change coming ahead of us.
Oh, absolutely.
I can talk about that another day.
No, we'll do that another day because I know you do a lot of commentating in terms of technology as well. So let's move on to the other topic that we're going to cover. There is pros and cons. There's a website I think the BBC have got now where you can click on and you can choose the topic, whether it be farming or immigration or defence. Lots of accusations left, right and centre about, you know, if you leave the EU, this will happen.
Yeah.
If you stay in the EU, you'll be okay. Although I'm not going to tell you what my opinion is,
Yeah.
but, you know, we all have to be impartial when it comes to looking at these points. In your particular view, I mean, farming, if you just very quickly looked at that, you'd say, if you're in the EU, wouldn't it be a great thing that there's controls and you're not over farming? You know, if you're out the EU, there's kind of open season for people to go into anywhere they want to farm as much as they want to. So sometimes a organisation of countries that are together can help build really good processes that can help support each other, you know. So the other argument was this week was about defence, wasn't it? That this could lead to World War III, right? And then I think Boris had said, he's from the exit camp, had said that it's NATO that's been protecting, not necessarily the EU. So the hot topic that everyone picks on is immigration, right? And we know that countries are built on immigrants, aren't they?
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
So if we started to suddenly get controls. I went to a company recently in my other work that I do, and it was impressive to see the number of people that had come over from India who was supporting the IT infrastructure there. You know, that's a good thing, isn't it, for them in terms of new life? You know, the other argument might be that they've left a life in India and there's a bit of a brain drain. That there's two sides to every story, isn't there? So, what do you think about the immigration bit?
So, as far as I'm concerned, immigration is a necessary part of a functional economy. As I said, you know, a lot of societies are built on underclass. You need people who are going to do the basic jobs in this country. If we go back to the 60s and before, it was the Irish immigrants and the black immigrants doing the building work, and then they're doing the buses and working in the National Health Service. Today, we are bringing in people from right around the world, but the EU is an open door. So the problem you have is, you have in Europe, you have a huge disparity in the earnings of some of the people in Europe and what you have in the UK, and the benefits that go along with that. And this is where you have the dichotomy. In about 1986, Europe was a much more level playing field. I think with the accession of all the new countries, that then changed. And when you've got Romania, Bulgaria, you've obviously got Poland, which is still one of the better off countries actually in Europe.
But there was an argument that says that Poland is better off because people that worked here, who came here from Poland, sent money home. So therefore they improved their own country. So in a way, the EU is a harmonising influence.
In the last week or two, there's some facts saying that actually the Polish economy hasn't done as well as they thought it did.
Right, okay. But it did better than it could have done if it didn't come. People didn't leave their country and actually come to the UK and help bring money back to their families.
You were talking about an economy that was a communist state for 45 years or 40 years, and suddenly you made it into a capitalist state, more democratic state. It's completely different. But let's just talk about the immigration. We need immigrants in this country. I represent an organisation, Business of Britain. We understand that we need immigrants in this country. But what we don't need is an open door policy. What we need is, if you want to come and you're from Romania, let's have an Australian points-based system where people are on here 5-year visas. They can work here if they've added value to the economy. If we know that we need builders, we need plumbers, we need all these different activities, we need programmers.
But the argument is that if you look at the immigration visas at the moment, they're not easy. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day.
That's exactly the point. The point is, why shouldn't the immigration visas be standardized? The reason why they're so tough, this is the exact point you're making. The reason why they're tough, if you come from the Ukraine or you come from India, where they've got some of the best programmers in the world, you can't get a job here easily, and it's very tough for you to get through, because in Europe we're allowing anybody to come. You know, we don't mind what status they are, whether they can read English or they have any idea, they can come freely. And we are not measuring the statistics. Nobody has any idea.
I was going to ask you actually, what are the true figures then? I mean, we get cold information about that.
We get nonsense information. So if you actually understand what goes on.
But I thought the figure was always that there are more people leaving the country than entering the country.
Well,
was that always the case?
I don't know what you've been
reading. And what about the 5
reading?
million people that are living over in Spain as expatriates who are enjoying all the benefits of?
Unfortunately, you're wrong.
Yeah?
It's 1 million that live between France, south of France, and Spain.
Okay.
But then the fifth largest.
Well, they might have dual nationality or something.
They all have British nationality because they don't want to have French nationality. I can assure you of that. The fifth largest French city is London. So there are over 400,000 French people.
I didn't note that recently, that there was a large number of French people living in London.
And more are coming because of all the problems of the bombings, and actually all the Jews, because I'm involved also with the Jewish community. I'm on the body of the Indian Jewish Association. So I'm aware of what's going on. The Jewish community is also leaving a lot of Europe because they don't feel comfortable there. They feel comfortable in this country. And we have another draw in this country. So at first I said...
So why do we need borders anyway at the end of the day? Why can't people... I mean, if you look at your parents and my parents who came here in the 50s, and they came here and they made this like real, hard decision to leave their families to come over here. They were on that second. They were on the second boat out.
Things that you
got the Windrush in '58. My dad was on the next boat in '58.
We take a lot of things for granted, right? And the facilities that we have cannot meet this. When you talk about the 50s, travel was not easy. Even if 1,000, 5,000 came over, it still took you months to get here. Some people actually drove from India in a car to London.
Probably not that many, but
Well, no, I know quite a few cases of this. People coming on boats and then they came on planes. It wasn't any old body could do it.
Are you saying that the fact that technology brings about
yes,
greater movement of people?
and awareness. And, in those days, nobody knew that you can get, a child benefit in your country if you're in Europe. These are the things.
There's one argument says that recently the Tory party have changed the rules so that you can't get benefits by default.
They're trying to. They're trying to. It's called a break.
Yeah.
It's a break clause. It's a 4-year break clause that they've tried to negotiate. But everything is dominated. As far as Europe is concerned, Europe is a dysfunctional organisation and is based on whatever goes on in Germany, in my humble opinion.
But you can't get things.
If you're doing business in Italy right now, you're in the south of Italy or south of Spain, try and get a loan. Why can't you get a loan? Because all of your euros are sitting in German banks. Because if you've got money and you're in Italy, you don't put it in an Italian bank.
But the British are not part of the euro system.
Well,
they have their own sovereignty with their own currency.
Well,
so it's kind of you're halfway through the door.
No.
Anyway,
I can tell you that since 2010, people like you say it's better to be for Britain to be in Europe because we have a voice.
I didn't say that was my opinion, by the way.
But I'm inferring it from your conversation, right? We have a voice. But since 2010, the UK has voted 55 times against acts by the EU commissioners, and not a single one has been altered.
But there have been positive things, haven't there? Like for example, health and safety.
They've introduced new data protection rules this year, which are going to cost the UK economy 18 billion. It suits Germany because Germany is a manufacturing country. And the rules suit their privacy rules, and that suits Germany. It does not suit the UK.
So what about loss of...
And what about alternative health? Yeah. They're trying to ban homeopathy. How many Indians live off homeopathy and Ayurveda? That's how we sustain our elderly people, right? Okay. Because we used it. But then the EU wants to ban it. That's the kind of organisation. They want us to be, every time we go through an airport, to have our turbans inspected. They want that when a party of people from the Sikh community went to EU, they were not allowed into the Commission because of their pugs.
I did read about that, but
how is that? Because they're ignorant.
Yeah, but sometimes, and I actually am very anti when that situation arises. And if you look at the TSA in the US, people have tried to work with Sikh Coalition to try and get that, education, and sometimes it's more about education than anything else.
Yeah.
If we point out about that, we're talking about money, we're talking about jobs. There's a lot of talk about the fact that if I know Japanese companies come over, there's Honda, there's different plants in the UK, and a way of getting over the actual tariffs, they have to manufacture in a European country, right? So if they didn't do that, right, then suddenly the prices of all cars would go up because they have to, they don't get exempt. And also there's an impact. They may not want to have their jobs. They may not want to have their factories here.
If you're Tesla and you manufacture in the US, you pay 3% tariff coming into the EU.
Right. Yeah, but that's because they're US, aren't they?
Yeah. So that would be the worst case scenario. Okay. And TTIP anyway will.
But if you were a Toyota garage, if you were a Toyota company and you had a factory,
Toyota and Nissan have explicitly stated that it's neutral for them. They've actually, they're on record.
So they won't make any difference for them.
Yeah,
if
because
exit,
last time
exit
in 1991, they were caught out when they said, oh, well, if we're not in the euro, which would have killed this country, would be crippled if we were in the euro, because we have different house owning needs. We're a very different, we are based on a completely different economy.
So let's talk about the headline for this week, which was about the World War III situation, right?
Yeah.
And Boris's comment about the fact that it didn't make a difference because NATO are looking after it anyway. There must be power in people coming together and saying, actually, it's not a good idea if one particular country is misbehaving, or so kind of putting pressure to unite against any kind of extreme group that might be within.
Well, in the case of Ukraine, the European Union has shown it's completely toothless. And at the end of the day, they all have to look to US Big Brother to sort things out.
Okay.
When they really have no, I mean, the UK and France are the only people who've got and the UK cannot even reveal, if you understand what goes on in government, they cannot even reveal their secrets to the European Parliament. Why? Because they call it leaky. All 28 countries, you're talking about 28 countries that range from, a few 100,000 people to 60, 70, 100 million people.
Right.
They're very different. It's like saying the borough of Harrow, I'm going to tell the guy in the borough of Harrow what's going on. You wouldn't pass your trade secrets there, would you? You wouldn't pass your defence. You'd be worried about what classification they've got.
Yeah, but when it comes to uniting against terrorism, when it comes to saying, you mentioned the thing about security, but even cybercrime. I mean, that's a thing that's close to your heart, to the technology side of it. If we're all together and we're using the same systems,
these are unfortunately things that. So I can tell you that the European superstate is not a good place to be. I went to a talk 10 years ago in Berlin. What did the commissioner say? He said he's going to civilize the whole of Europe, including North Africa.
Right.
So he showed a map with the North African states, all dressed up in EU colours. That was their plan. David Miliband said back in the early 2000s, it would be great if Europe could extend itself beyond its borders. What they think is that they can take European rules and values and pass it around the world.
We know that different.
This is
we know that different countries have different ways of handling.
Correct, and actually, I believe in the European Economic Zone. I absolutely believe in it. It's a great thing, right? But what I don't believe is in the EU with a European army that can't make a decision. You've got countries with 500 years of history, which are different. You've got to see most of Europe is based on Napoleonic
Whereas you think the model
law.
might work in the US because the United States is...
it's hardly...
But the US have got the French, they've got the Irish, they've got black communities.
But it was all created as a meld, and actually, if you go in the US and you visit the middle or the south, there's a huge divide even today.
Oh, there has always been that situation.
Huge.
I was going to say, we could have a whole series of programs where we could talk about this, and I think there would be some shows that will come out over the next few weeks as the topic gets hotter and hotter in terms of staying or going. And our aim is to make sure that you get presented with the information. The decision is ultimately yours about whether or not you wish to stay or go. There are arguments on both sides. I think generally, you have to look at statistics, you have to look at general opinions, you have to look at, what the most common sense thing to do is. And the other thing is you have to look at the future as well. We can't predict what's going to happen, but you can try and forecast the best way forward. So I wanted to say thanks so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for all your time. We wish you the best of luck with all the exciting things you're doing in government, the campaigning stuff that you're doing either way. And also we're going to, make sure that we get that website, which is www.Sikhsforbritain.org. So we make sure that people.
So it's a campaign for people for Sikhs who want to leave the EU.
Okay, and on the other side of it, you can go to the BBC website where you can have a look and see the pros and cons and the rest of it. So unfortunately, we've run out of time, and just want to say thanks so much for joining us this week. We look forward to your company next time. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.